With the release of Mario Party Jamboree, Glen and I were very keen together to get a review out for it, and a thanks to Nintendo for the early review copy.
Yep, it's not a series that we've got a huge amount of experience in, either of us, so this review does come from the perspective of newcomers to the series, but that means we're not weighed down by the nostalgia of the past, I reckon.
Absolutely.
So is it indeed a jamboree, or is it more like a lemon curd-aree?
Oh no, that's terrible. Let's find out.
It looks like you've played before. What's that? No.
No real story to speak of, although it does introduce the idea of an imposter Bowser, with Kamek turning one of the creatures into such a character, and this particular Bowser character comes into play in one of the online minigames, and we'll look at that later. But in terms of how the game starts, you are treated to a quite lovely looking cutscene which introduces you to the island itself, an archipelago made up of 4 unique regions, and these are basically your game modes. So you have the board game section, you have a section that deals with motion controlled minigames, you have the online modes, and then you have the other mini games separate from the board games themselves, where you can play these outside of that mode. So moving on to gameplay then, as I'm sure most of you will know, it's based around characters moving around the board, with the aim being to have the most number of stars by the end of the allocated turns to claim victory. Each character will take their turn to move around the board, and there are a number of items that you can acquire to help you do this, with stars scattered about the board that you'll need to pick up. As I said, this counts towards ultimate victory, but the bulk of the fun comes through the mini-games that you'll have to play against the other opponents, be they AI, local players, or those online, and this will see you pitted against each other, with over 110 of these mini-games included in this new version.
Now you can play this one completely solo, like Glen says, with computer-controlled opponents. This one goes back to using single joycons, so that it's very easy to get 4 players if you've only got a couple of sets of Joy-Con and you just turn those on their side. You do have several different game modes and a couple of new mentions. There are a couple of online modes, aren't there?
Yes, the first of those is called the Cooperflon, I think I'm saying that right, and this is a 20-player online mode where you are involved in a race and will need to get steps ahead of the opponent in order to win. And the other is called Bowser Kaboom Squad, with up to 8 players playing this one, having to find bombs to get rid of an imposter Bowser.
So back to that board game style that we started with, you do have several different options to choose from in terms of those, and there are also 2 different gameplay modes. You've got one that's essentially tailored towards younger children, or just casual players, say like at Christmas or something like that. But then you've also got one that's entirely skill-based, or at least more focused towards skill-based play.
You can also toggle the number of stars needed to win, the amount of turns it takes to get around the board, all of that, and customize the game to your own needs or schedule, depending on how long you want to play for.
So as far as actual gameplay goes then, it does feel very much like an interactive board game. It's traditional Nintendo, whereby if the CPU's taking a turn, you gotta watch it, you can't skip it, it's all part of the fun, in air quotes. And I guess I do kind of buy into that, but I'm also a bit of a impatient fellow, so having the option of skipping those personally would have been nice.
And by the same token, some of the training sessions that you have to partake in before you can play a few of the modes do feel a bit unnecessary, to be perfectly honest. I mean, they're modes that you would pick up quite quickly. I do appreciate some of these are online modes, and I suppose it doesn't want you wasting other people's time by not really knowing what you're doing, but the fact you have to take part in them before you can join in the fun, so to speak, does bring the experience down a little bit for me. I think it's one of those where the first few times the AI has their go, you're quite happy to watch and see the razzmatazz that takes place, but the more you get about the board and the number of turns you take, it would be nice to have a skip option and just to see the ultimate outcome of their go. But aside from that, and moving on perhaps to the mini games, which is where the bulk of the fun will be found, after everyone has had their go on the board, there is a compulsory mini game. Now these could be all against all, they could be 3 against 1, 2 against 2. It will decide as the game loads up, and you then all get to choose which of the offered mini games you would like to play. The computer will then choose one of these and you're taken into the game.
The nice thing about that is, even if it's just you selecting one of them, there's still a chance that yours will be chosen. A little bit like the Mario Kart Online track selection, and it's nice. It means you're never completely frustrated if everyone's voting for one certain item, and it gives you a tutorial as well, which is a really good idea before you press the plus button and go into the game.
Indeed. As I mentioned, there are over 110 minigames this time. I think I'm right in saying that's the most ever in a Mario Party game, and I'll be honest, the game is a huge amount of fun when it's in this mini game form. The board itself is kind of a means to an end. to get there, and obviously it itself does provide challenges and laughs as you steal coins from opponents or wherever it may be, but the minigames is definitely where it's at, and there is a nice blend of skill-based ones and I suppose more luck-based ones to a degree. You'll have ones where you're tilting the joycon, you'll have ones that are button reliant. It is definitely a very nice mix, and it keeps things fresh.
Yeah, and at the risk of being accused of sacrilege, if you want to skip out all the fluff and just do the minigames, there is a gameplay mode specifically targeted for those types of players.
At times, another one of the characters, there are quite a number of characters to choose from, by the way, we didn't really mention that. Again, I believe this has the most ever, but a new AI controlled character will appear at times. These are called Jamboree Buddies, and the first player to reach one of these will activate a longer mini game sequence, with the overall victor then claiming that buddy for the next few turns, and each character will come with specific benefits that they will help the player out with over those few turns.
Now, I spoke about it being skill-based. You have a few things to facilitate that. You can zoom out to the map and be able to see exactly what steps you could take. You can skip to a specific tile and it will show you the number of rolls you'll need. And you have items that you can purchase in the shop to help with that. Things like a die that essentially allows you to choose the number on it so that you can go directly to one of the stars. And the stars are obviously tied to your victory. The player with the most, or the player that reaches a set amount, will win the game.
Absolutely, but for all the strategy in the world, it does still have that element of not luck necessarily, but deviousness almost, where you can steal from opponents. But being lucky enough to land on one of those squares is what keeps the game relatively balanced, in that you can be the most skillful player and still end up losing.
One thing that I will say is if you are playing with the CPU, it's more frustrating than if you've got a full human roster, because at certain times it will make errors. If you're teamed up with a CPU partner and it's a specific course and you do something and they do something, when they're dropping you down, it can be a little bit, or it can feel a little bit unfair.
Yeah, there were a couple of times actually where particular AI characters did very strange things. Now, Mario seems to be the chief cause of this. There were times where he would just stand in a corner or, wouldn't actually participate in the game as he should have done. It's an AI, of course, and you kind of half expect this at times, but it is a bit disappointing in such a polished title to see it happen, especially when it affects you as a player negatively. Gameplay to two people that, as I mentioned at the start, aren't well versed in the series was definitely a fun experience, albeit I don't think it's necessarily one that will increase the appeal outside of people that were already interested in the series to begin with. If you love Mario Party, you're going to love this even more. If you want to get a game that will suit people of all skill sets, it's ideal. If you want a game to play for Christmas, snap it up. If you've always looked across and not been overly bothered, you still won't be bothered now.
Absolutely. For us, I think the gameplay is very fun indeed, with the caveats that we've mentioned. We give that 17 out of 20. Controls are classic Nintendo, and what I mean by that is they're very tight, very well designed, and actually use HD rumble to facilitate gameplay, which is very clever. They score 19 out of 20. Visually, Mario Party Jamboree looks lovely. It's bright and vibrant, it's classic Nintendo. It looks so clean and crisp, even down to the UIs. Everything looks like it was designed and calculated specifically for a purpose, and that's classic Nintendo. Performance-wise, you're looking at 60 frames per second. I didn't notice a lot of drops or stutters, and load times were minimal.
There are a total of 7 different game boards, each with a unique style, with some of these returning from previous Mario Party games. Now, whilst we've said a couple of times now, we're not experts in this particular field, I do love it when Nintendo do this in general. They do it with Mario Kart quite a lot. Bring a board back from some 20 years ago and update it and make it look fantastic for a new audience. And it's always nice to see them do this in their games.
Also, having these dynamic boards was a great idea. Things like the Wiggler's Tree Party, being able to move the caterpillar along to facilitate gameplay choices and get a shortcut. It's just nice, makes it feel alive.
Yeah, everything just feels so refined. Every movement the character makes, every expression on their face, the character select screen, as superfluous as that may sound, is something you'll see once every so often. Just looks incredible. It's the sort of game that you wouldn't expect to look as good as it does until you play it.
The sound and audio, again, classically Nintendo. Excellent soundtrack, some tunes that you'll recognise and others new to the series.
Yeah, it takes the line of more recent Mario games, going back towards, I guess, the Wii, of that orchestral feel, something that does suit the Mario series very well these days. It's become almost part of the furniture, and again, serves its purpose very well here. Visuals are fantastic and performance is flawless. The one thing I would say is perhaps it would have been nice to get more than 7 boards. If you're starting to play this for a good few hours, you may start to feel some repetition in terms of the environments you're seeing, but bearing in mind the love and care that's gone into creating these boards, I can understand why 7 was the cap. With that in mind, visuals get 19 out of 20. Audio does what it generally does in Mario first party games, and that's provide a very strong backbone to the gameplay and visuals that you are experiencing. I wouldn't say it's quite as strong as in some more recent first party games, but it's still very good, don't get me wrong, and it gets 17 out of 20.
As far as price, obviously it's Nintendo. We're looking at the full $49.99 or your regional equivalent, and there is a physical available as well. It's the biggest Mario Party game ever, but your value probably depends on how you view those types of experiences.
Yeah, there is more to it than just the board game side. There are some other bits and other modes that you can partake in. I think value is probably the most difficult section to score here from our perspective and our relationship with the series. I would say if you're the sort of person that has a group of friends that say every Friday will sit down and play a game like this, it's in your Friday night roster, you could easily score this top marks and you'll get full whack in terms of value out of this. If, like us, it's one of those games that you'll probably dust off every so often, maybe just once a year at Christmas, obviously that's going to affect the score too. So take our score, pinch of salt for this section, but on balance, we give value 16 out of 20.
Of the little that we've played of Mario Party over the years, this is certainly the best outing, and I'm sure fans of the series are going to absolutely lap it up. There are a couple of minor negatives, but it's still a very good game. It gets a SwitchUp score of 88%. Let us know in the comments what you think of it.
Don't forget, if you are looking for eShop credit to pick this game up, or anything else of course for that matter, you can use our website switchup.gg, and doing so will get you 5% of your purchase price back in cash back when you buy your eShop cards. It does help the channel out, so it's very much appreciated if you do this. And a thank you to our patrons and our channel members for your continued support. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.